All right, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. All right, guys, welcome to the Chivalrous men's group. I want to thank you guys for coming. Hopefully, this will be an interactive environment where we can share ideas um, and really just help ourselves to grow and to be stronger men. So this is starting last week, a couple things that we talked about, why we must be strong men, right? And we talked about the street light thinking, right? And belief bias. And then we also touched on the lion mentality versus the hyena mentality. Um, and we can go from there to try to uh, figure out what's best. Um, we can go from there and figure out what these ideas are, what these philosophies are, and how we can introduce them into our lives. And then we're going to touch on the Tocqueville paradox, and then the call of action to our young men, young and old, just the men in general, are having a daily purpose, and the concept of raw action in the face of not knowing exactly what to do, that we don't just stand there with our hands tied, that we actually do something, which is better than nothing. So I am your presenter, Brother Shahid, a lifelong educator and teacher. I've been in public service as a law enforcement officer, as a teacher, as a mentor for the last 3 decades, where I've gained a wealth of knowledge, and I'm utilizing that knowledge to bring to the young men, to help young men become the best versions of themselves. In those 3 decades, I've done the hard work, and I'm consistently doing the hard work to remove the negative aspects from my character, the aspects of my character that are unpleasing to me and to others, and to replace those with um, praiseworthy characteristics that are pleasing to me and I'm hoping are pleasing to others. Um, what we talked about last week, the saying, hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. And I did say that I believe that we are in the midst of um, we're starting to see, because men have been are weak right now in our implementation and our providing and protecting women, and creating an infrastructure that is successful, that we're starting to see times become more difficult, and we have to step up to those that challenge in that time to become the men that we're supposed to be for our families, for our sons and for our daughters, for our wives and for our aunts and for our uncles and for our children. Okay. We talked about last week the planning your manhood, right? The street light thinking, where you only focus on the issues that are right in front of you, and you don't take the time to shine your light of attention onto the dark corners. And usually, in the dark corners of your life, those are the issues and the characteristics that will destroy you. So we have to do the hard work to shine our lights into those dark corners and flush out those negative, ugly characteristics, and really bring them to light, and let us um, look at them, dissect them, and eventually destroy them. Um, so we don't want to have the street light thinking where our negative points are able to hide. Okay. And then we want to remove a belief bias, right? Um, where you want to analyze all of the information that is given. Sometimes you will say that, I might be negligent over here, but I'm a good person over here. And that's a belief bias. It's like, no, we have to look at all of our issues if we want to grow into the men that we want to be. Not just the good things that we have that we believe are good, but also the negative aspects um of our character, right? And these are the two components of chivalrous men, and we prepare ourselves to do the work for our entire lives. We're consistently shining lights on the negative, and we are consistently challenging ourselves to be better men. Last week we watched these two videos where it talked about the social hierarchy of the male hyena as compared to the social hierarchy of the female. I'm sorry, to the male lion, and how the male lion outside of his um, infancy, essentially going from ages or years 1 and 2, is a part of the hyena pack. And then after that 2 years, he is essentially kicked out of the hyena pack, um, and he has to kind of scrounge and scrap, and he never gains any real solid footing in any hyena pack. He's always seen as the bottom of the hierarchy, as compared to the male lion, who, similar to the male hyena, for the first year into or two, for the first 2 years, he's part of the lion pride, and then when he hits about 3 years, he is actually kicked out of the lion pride. But now he must make himself into a man, or into the male lion that he needs to be, so that he can eventually challenge another male for the rights of being the males of the pride, and for the right to breed, right? So the male hyena really doesn't get the chance. He doesn't challenge himself in those years, 3 and 4 and beyond. He just is at the bottom of the social hierarchy, where the male lion, right, when he hits that adolescence or that teenage years, now he must do things, as we talk, what we'll talk about. He must create raw action, um, for him to be successful later on in life. And we compared those um, social structures to the social structures of young men today, and how we cannot just sit back and accept the least of the situation, but rather we must push ourselves to be the best versions of ourselves, and that our future legacy, our children, our wives, our daughters, our sons, um, and even our parents as they age, and our community depends on us to turn ourselves into productive men. Okay. Now, this is the beginning of this week's, excuse me, this week's um, lesson, right? Where we say the characteristics of a good man. And this is coming from the book by David Dita, The Ways of the Superior Man. And we'll touch on each one of these briefly so that we have a firm understanding of what they mean, right? So the first characteristic of a good man is empathy. And the reason that I chose empathy was because it actually comes from a lecture that I was listening to. It was a TED Talk where the man, and I'm forgetting his name, was doing a TED Talk on primates, on gorillas. And what he said, what he noticed, was that the male gorilla that is the most empathetic, and this is if you say the alpha gorilla, right? If he is the most empathetic, when he loses his power, as most men or all men will do, eventually they will weaken, and whether it's your sons or your nephews, or someone else is going to rise up and be strong, and they're going to take the lead of the family, right? And God willing, you have prepared them correctly where they can take the lead of the family and lead them to what is beloved. But that once strong alpha male, when he gets weak, if he was an empathetic leader, and empathetic means caring and worrying about the needs of the people, instead of his own needs, you know, that he actually is taken care of by the women of the I don't know what they call the gorilla group. Um, but he's taken care of where they make his bed at night. They bring him food, and he's taken care of as he ages, and then eventually he will pass away, but it did say that if that leader, when he was strong, if he was not empathetic, if he was overly demanding, and he did not care about the needs of his people, then they essentially will leave that alpha, they will essentially leave him to die, and nobody will take care of him, right? So the characteristic of a good man is that he is empathetic, because one day we will lose our power, and we all should have good people, right? And hopefully good women in our lives that will take care of us as we age, and before we pass away, to meet our Lord, right? So some people may disagree with that, but here, what we teach is that a good man must be empathetic. Okay. Number two, a good man must have integrity. So let me just open it up for the people that are here. How would you define integrity? If anybody wants to speak, just speak loud enough so we can hear you. And if you're not comfortable speaking, you can always put it in the chat. How would you define integrity? Okay. All right. While we wait for someone to put it in the chat, I would define integrity as being a man that does what he says he should do. Being a man who does what he says he should do. That's what a man of integrity is. And when he does it to the best of his ability. Does that mean that it's going to be perfect? Absolutely not. That does not mean that it's going to be perfect. But does it mean that he tries his best, that he puts his all into that decision? Yes, he does. In everything that he does. He puts his best foot forward. Okay? So that's something to that we realize as men, right? That whatever we do, whether it's something that we want to do or whether it's something that we do not want to do, a man of integrity does it to the best of his ability. Moving forward to humility, right? Humility, to be humble, right? To be humble. And these are my definitions. There might be another academic book definition, but my definition is a humble man. It's not about him, right? He recognizes that it is not about him. A great analogy that we use, when I talk to young men, a great analogy that I like to use is, um, that of ballroom dancing, right? It's very interesting. Ballroom dancing, right? In a ballroom dance, we know who is, oh, let me go back. I'm sorry. And in a ballroom dance, keeps doing this, the who is the main focus of the ballroom dance, right? And as we would know, the main focus of the ballroom dance is the woman. She has the dress, she has the sequin, right? She's the one that everyone is looking at, right? And then the man, he is to the side, and his outfit, right? And what he wears is in harmony, or it matches with what his woman wears, but he's not as flamboyant, he's more docile, right? You could almost say, right? But in a ballroom dance, who keeps the structure of the dance, right? And we would know traditional ballroom dancing, right, is that the man will keep the structure of the ballroom dance, right? Now, because he's keeping the structure, he has to be humble and recognize that at times she may be the focus, right? But he keeps the structure. of the dance. And so I take that is humility. He realizes, though he has a job to do, and that his job is of the utmost importance, the focus is not on him. It's not about him and what he does. And he's not constantly telling people that you have to follow me because it's all about me. No. He said he people follow him because they know that this is where the structure is. And amongst that structure is where the beautiful dance occurs. Okay. Number four, the fourth characteristic of a good man is that he has respect. First and foremost, he has respect for himself. Okay. And um, that can manifest itself in various different ways. Having respect for yourself means that you use the best language, that you don't put yourself in compromised situations, that you take care of your body, that you take care of your mind, that you take care of your spirit, right? That you respect this vessel that God has given you, and that you try to do the best that you can. And then having respect with for others, right? Whether those people be someone that has more position than you or someone that has less position than you, that you give them that same respect no matter who they are. That you're not disrespectful to people that are below you, but then you give those that are above you in status ultimate respect. No, a virtuous man, a chivalrous man, he is respectful to everybody that he encounters. If they're doesn't matter if they're men, doesn't matter if they're women, doesn't matter if they're children, doesn't matter if they're rich, doesn't matter if they're poor, doesn't matter if they're famous or if they're unknown. A chivalrous man gives respect to all. Okay. The fifth characteristic of a chivalrous man is vulnerability. And I would say this characteristic is vulnerability to be proven wrong and vulnerability to fix the mistakes that you have in your life. Many times, if we talk about, and we touched on before, that belief bias, that you believe something of yourself so strongly that you're not vulnerable enough to know or to recognize that your actions may be hurting someone else that you really love, someone else that you really care about. But because you're not vulnerable enough to listen to their complaints, right? You end up just steamrolling over them, and that is not the characteristic of a good man or a characteristic of a chivalrous man. Okay. Um, Number six, responsibility. A good man, a chivalrous man, takes responsibility for his action. Right? He finds the fault in himself and he says, "How could I have been better? What could I have done, right, to fix this situation? And in the future, what am I going to do so that this situation does not arise?" Okay. And so in all of these things, a a chivalrous man, a good man, is consistently throughout his life, daily, taking account of himself, right? He's taking account of himself and his actions, and he's looking at the world around him and how the world around him is interacting with him and how he is interacting with the world around him, and he's trying to improve every moment. Okay. Number seven, patience. Patience with himself and him and his negative qualities to replace them, right? And patience with others. Okay. One of the points of patience, in my opinion, is that he does not put expectations on others that he would not have expectations on himself. So when he sees that others may have faltered, right? He's patient with them. He's not hard-hearted with them. He's not harsh with them. He advises them, he teaches them, right? And then he still continues to mold them and assist them. And he also does that with himself, while at the same time holding extremely high expectations of himself and the expectations of others, right? I'm not just going to be patient with you and let you be a bum, right? I'm going to have patience with you in your attempts to achieve greatness. And lastly, well, not lastly, but of these eight that I listed, the characteristics of a good man or the characteristics of a chivalrous man is kindness. That he is kind. Okay. He is kind. He is kind to the elderly. Okay. He does not see the elderly as a nuisance. He is kind with children. He does not see children as a nuisance. He's able to teach the most intellectual, and he's able to teach a small child. He's kind. He's loving. Okay. Um, and these are the characteristics. Now, what it says below is being a genuinely good man isn't about being perfect. Okay. You are not going to be perfect in your quest of being a good man, a chivalrous man, right? It's about acknowledging our flaws and actively working on becoming better, right? We are polishing ourselves every day. And this polishing is going to continue until we pass away. It's about treating others with kindness and respect. It's about living with integrity and taking responsibilities for our actions. So as we move to the next slide, is there any comments that anybody would like to make? Or you can post in the chat, that would be fantastic. Okay. The last section or the last um, issue, or I don't want to say issue, point that we're going to touch on today, right, is the Tocqueville paradox, right? And this is the masculine man's burden. And so I'll read this here. The Tocqueville paradox is a phenomenon in which, as social conditions and opportunities improve, social frustration grows more quickly. Okay. This is based on the observation of Alexis de Tocqueville, a French historian and political thinker who studied the French Revolution and later reforms in Europe and the United States. The paradox suggests people's expectations rise faster than their living standards, leading to discontent and instability. Okay. So what Alexis de Tocqueville was talking about, and this is an issue that we see today amongst many men, is that if when you have multiple options, right, of what you could do, that you actually lose contentment in life because you become ungrateful for what you have. Okay. So it says, as people's expectations rise, right, faster than their living conditions, they become discontent and unstable. Okay. So let's use the example here of social media, because social media is a huge issue. Okay. So you're on social media and you're seeing, okay, we have about 10 minutes, guys. You're on social media and you're seeing everyone around you look like they're succeeding, right? You see people, they're getting in relationships. You're seeing people going on vacation. You're seeing people, and these are things that I've heard people say. You're seeing people that you graduated high school with, and they're graduating college, and it looks like they're excelling, right? And this is one of the things that people say about social media, right? Is that all that they're posting on social media are people's highlight reels, right? They're not really posting on social media about the issues that they have in life, right? But naturally, when you're on social media and you see people's highlight reels, you think that everybody is living a fantastic life. And so in return, you start to look at your life, right? Because now your expectations of where you're supposed to be, right, has risen. So now you start looking at your life as though you're a failure, as though you're not um, where you're supposed to be. And you find yourself in a depressed state and you begin to, what happens is that you stop moving because you or you stop growing because you're like, well, I'll never be exactly who they are, right? And depression sets in, and you do not continue to turn into and to change into the man that you were trying to be. Okay. And so a lot of this touches on Eric Erickson's psychosocial stages of development, right? And so what you have to do to counteract this Tocqueville paradox, right, is that you have to define what success is for you. Okay. You have to define what success is for you. And I would really, for many people, I would suggest that you do not get on social media. Um, you know, looking at people's lives, and losing your focus because of this, right? But you have to create what is success for you, and you have to write that out step by step by step, and every day, right? You're moving yourself closer to your goal. Okay. So you move yourself closer to your goal. And as you push yourself closer to that goal, you are seeing, right? You're seeing improvement in your life. And that improvement in your life is what will challenge this Tocqueville paradox where you no longer are frustrated because of your lack of growth, right? But you are finding contentment every day because you are growing. And this is what takes us to um, this next slide here, right? Where the Tocqueville's paradox, it's an effect on men, right? That we're seeing. So the first phase, as we see here, it says young men from the ages of 18 to 30 spend nearly 20% more time alone in 2023 compared to 2019. Okay. So you have so many options, right? You have so many options that you actually become paralyzed. And so it says that, um, you know, it says while averaging just 6.6 non-sleeping hours daily, okay, of action, right? So the disparity extends beyond employment, with 20% of men in the age range still living with their parents in 2023, as compared to 12% of women. Okay. So this what this saying is that men, right, with this Tocqueville paradox, they're failing to launch. They're failing to move forward, right? Because they have so many options and the expectations, right, of what they're supposed to be is so high, right, to themselves that they feel as though they're a failure, right? And it's like, no, pick something and focus on it, right? And see what you can accomplish. Okay. We'll move on. As of August 2024, 89% of men from ages 25 to 34 were in the labor force, representing over 700,000 fewer men than if participating rates would remain at the 20, I'm sorry, the 2004 level. Okay. So what we're seeing is during this range, 700,000 men now have left the workforce. The question is, what are they doing between this age? Right? What are they doing? Uh, and I would say more so than social media, a huge issue that our young men are dealing with is pornography and video games, right? Pornography and video games, where you have people that are trying to be, video game streamers or trying to be Twitch. Yeah, I don't not very familiar with these things, but Twitch streamers or, social media creators, and they've left the workforce, right? But are they what they're doing, is it really successful for them? Okay. The challenges faces young men are further underscored by an alarming rise in death of despair, right? Death due to suicide, drug overdose, and alcohol-related liver disease. Okay. And one of the things that we have to look at, right, is that the young man from between the ages of 15 and 30 is actually the highest rate of suicides amongst all the other demographics, right? And that's why I'm doing the work that I'm doing, and I'm trying my best to get young men to see that taking control of your life is really the only solution to your problem. Okay. So I just wanted to say thank you guys, right? And together, right, we can create an agenda to change our conditions. And that's what we'll touch on next week. What that agenda is, right? And how we implement it into every aspect of our lives. All right. So if there's any questions or comments, what do you think about this presentation? I would take them now.
So
Walaikum salam.
I didn't the stat that you mentioned is very frightening, and I didn't realize it was that demographic of men, who is the most engaged in suicide. So it's very frightening to hear.
It is. It's very frightening. Very frightening. Um, and it's something that we really have to look at and work on improving. That's the saying for men. A lot of men are just suffering in silence. Um, and they're we're seeing the negative. Let me see how much time I have. I have a minute and 30 before it cuts off. We're seeing the negative implementation of um, we're seeing the negative components of this in our society, right? As far as young men, right? You have pornography out of this. It's just running rampant right now. You have a whole industry of like this OnlyFans that now it's creating a whole industry of oversex societies where, like they said, I think they said something like 15% of women today have OnlyFans, where they're selling their body online, essentially becoming prostitutes because there's a huge population of men that are going to buy this product, right? And it's just destroying our society. And so somebody has to fight against it. And that's why, I've tried to come up with this agenda, this Chivalrous Men's Group, in hopes that we can grow and protect our young men and protect our men and protect our women. Okay. So I thank you guys. I appreciate you. I hope that this helps, and you guys have a great day. So
So